Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Today's daf is daf Beis in Masechta Horayos. We begin a brand new Masechta, a new chapter, a new opportunity. Baruch shehecheyonu v'kiyemonu v'giyonu lazman hazeh. Doctor's not here yet, but Dr. Gross sponsored the Gemaras. Le'ilu nishmas. Who do you have le'ilu nishmas? Le'ilu nishmas. We'll get to le'ilu nishmas when he comes. Mirza Hashem. Okay. Zuk the Heilige Mishnah. Hoyru bezdin lavar el achas mikol mitzvah samudas batoira. Everybody makes mistakes, I guess, Reb Shaul, huh? Even Bezdin, even Sanhedrin HaGodol makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Hoyru Bezdin lavar al achas mikol mitzvah samudas batoira. Bezdin paskin to be over in one of the mitzvahs that is said in the Torah. Rashi says, imagine that. They said chaylav or dam, keneged the Torah. They said it's mutter. Rega, no. Bezdin pasak, chaylav is mutter. Zeo. That's oire lavar al achas mikol mitzvah Torah. And a person went, and he b'shoigig ate the chaylav based on their psak halacha. Whether Sanhedrin did it together with him, whether they did it first and you did it after, you followed, or either they didn't do it and you did it alone on your own, you didn't see them do it, you're still potter. Because the only reason why you went to eat the chaylav and the dam is because Bezdin said it's mutter. What if Bezdin paskind? And you knew better. You knew that they are making a mistake. Yeah. Or you're a Talmud and you're sitting, I guess you're like you have an internship in Sanhedrin Gedolah. We learned in Sanhedrin there's many Talmidim, they're taking smicha, they haven't been musmach yet, and they're sitting there to get some experience, some shimush. So and he knows that they were Toya, and nevertheless he listened to Bezdin, Sanhedrin HaGodol, whether they did it together, they did it first, he did it afterwards, even if they did it all, and he did it alone. Why? We don't consider him somebody who is Toila Bezdin. He wasn't Toila Bezdin because he knew better. So when he did it, his gut feeling was, I'm doing it wrong. I'm not supposed to be doing it. Okay, he did it anyway because Bezdin said, but it's not considered Toila Bezdin, and he's chayiv v'chatos. Says the Mishnah, ze aklal. HaToila ba'atzmai chayiv, v'hatoila bebezdin potter. The klal in our Mishnah, the first Mishnah of Horayos is, even if Sanhedrin HaGodol paskins, eat the chaylev, eat the dam. If you had no idea, you just followed Bezdin blindly, you had no opinion of your own, you're Toila bebezdin, you're potter from achatos. But if you yourself knew deep down that they're paskening wrong, but you know what? You said, I've never tasted chaylev. Let's just say that. Yeah, it's a good opportunity. Bezdin said it's okay. I'll sign off. I'll eat it, or whatever that was. Then you're still chayiv because that's toila b'das atzma. Says the Gemara, Omer Shmuel la'olam ein Bezdin chayiv not shirem la'mator atem. When is Bezdin chayiv a par helam davar shel tzibur? If most of Am Yisrael followed their psak halacha. Or when is the Yochid Potter, according to the Mishnah, even when Bezdin doesn't bring a Parah Davar Shal Tzibur? Yeah, if a Yochid follows Bezdin and Bezdin wasn't Machshel Roiv Klal Yisrael, Bezdin does not bring a Parah Davar Shal Tzibur, and the Yochid is Potter, according to our Mishnah. So when does that happen? Only Achi Yomru LeMutar and Atem. Only until they say Mutar and Atem. Shalom Aleichem Tzvi, we just started the Gemara. Beis and Aleph and Horayos. You have a Gemara right there. This is... thanks to the doctor, courtesy of the doctor. The first line of the Gemara is Amar Shmuel. Shmuel begins Horayos in the Gemara. When is Bezdin responsible for the psak halacha? It's only when, right, and people follow, right? People follow what Bezdin says. When is Bezdin responsible? That's only if they said mutar and atem. It's mutter to do it, meaning they were choyteches psak halacha. They said it's mutter. Rav Diman Ado Amar Achiyom la mutar natem lasos. No, it's not enough mutar and atem. Mutar and atem lasos. Now Tosfos Rosh says it's not a difference in verbiage in the way they say it. It's not just that they added the word lasos. What the Gemara means, Rav Diman Ado means, is it's not enough that Bezdin just gave a kolkoida and said that's the psak halacha. They have to paskin lemaisa on a case that came before them, and they have to give the halacha lemaisa. That's when, if people follow, the Bezdin is responsible. My timer, Why is that the criteria? Otherwise, before they pass halacha l'maisa in an actual case, it's not nigmar oiro. It's not considered that the psak halacha was nigmar, and therefore they wouldn't be responsible for anyone who follows their teaching. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye Fananamitin. We also learned this in a Mishnah. Chazali Iroi, Mishnah Sanhedrin. Chazali Iroi Shana V'Lim K'derech Shlimei Potter. Hoyre Lasses Chayev. We're talking about Zokan Mamre. We had a Masechta Sanhedrin. Zokan Mamre goes against Bezna Agadol in Yerushalayim and Lishkas Agozis. He paskins Shaloi Kedevreim. So the halach is as follows: if he just goes out and puts a video out on YouTube saying Bezna Agadol is wrong, yeah, Shalimaid, he was teaching Kederech Shalimaid the way he was teaching, and he ignored Bezna's psak, then he's Potter. He's not Chayev Misa yet. Only if Hoyre Lasses, if a case in point came to his table and he said, Keneged Tzanechna Godly, Paskind Lamaisa Keneged Tzanechna Godly, that's when he's Chayiv Misa. So what do you see from here? That it's only if Hoyre Lasses, that in order to be responsible, similar to our Mishnah, where Avdim and Arda says, in order for Bezdin Agod to be responsible for the Psak Halacha, it has to be Hoyre Lasses, it has to be in an actual case in point. We also learned a similar halacha like Rav Dimim and Ardoa says. Hoyrula bezn le'inosei, bezn paskind on an aguna, right? One eid echad, chazal remaim and eid echad. Usually need two eidim. Chazal remaim and eid echad to marry off a woman who we're not sure what happened to her husband. So hoyrula bezn le'inosei, bezdin paskind, she get married. Shalom aleichem, doctor. Thank you so much for the gemudas. Shekoyach.
Thank you.
Ramesh. It should be ilu nishmas.
Esther,
Lilu Nishmas, Esther, Basel, Yezev, Soro, the Gemara today, the Daf today, and the next 12 blot, the Miertza Hashem, Bezer Hashem, should be an Ilu for Neshama. Thank you so much, Doctor, for always providing us with the Gemuras. So we are in the middle of the Gemara, just started the Gemara, Bezim at Aleph, and we are in Omer Rab Abba, like 7 lines from the Gemara. Afanana betina hurla bezn linose bezn paskins for an aguna she can get married al echad, and they said lihinose. That's all they said. V'holcha v'kilkala, and she was mezana. She didn't get married. She was mezana with somebody, and then her husband came. Oy vavoy chayevas bekarbin. She's chayiv in a carbon. Why shlei tiru la'el lihinose? Because all they said was lihinose. Rashi says they weren't mata her legamri. They said you mutter lihinose. So if they weren't mater legamri, right? They didn't say mutarin atem muteres at lecholodam lasos lecholod kol mashetirtzi. They didn't say that. So Mamela, she's still responsible for that, and you can't blame Bezdin because that they didn't say, they weren't hoyre lasos. They didn't say mutarin atem lasos. That's the point. And another case, another raya. Finally, the other raya is from our Mishnah. Omer Ravina afanan nametenina. Our Mishnah right here. Hoyru Bezdin laver lachas b'chol mitzvah muz b'toyra. The Mishnah says Bezdin said you could be over al achas b'chol b'toyra. So you see that until Bezdin paskins la'aloch, it could be over. Yeah, it's not Bezdin is not held responsible. Suloi midi, and that's final. Now the Achroinim ask, if you look at the 3 rayas that we bring to Rav Dimim and Ardo, that you need Bezdin to say Matar Natam Lasos, we bring a raya from our Mishnah last. We go first to Yuvamis, we go first to here, to the Sanhedrin, right? And finally, Ravina says, Afanan, Namitanina, right? We just started Horayos. We just learned the Mishnah. Why wouldn't the Gemara bring a raya from Mamish the Mishnah? We just ended, we just finished Mamish 2 minutes ago. So the Magen Gebayim has a beautiful pshat. The Magen Gebayim says, because when you read our Mishnah, what are we trying to bring a raya? Trying to bring a raya that the Bezdin has to say Mutar Natam Lasois. In other words, they have to paskin a case in point. So if you look at the Mishnah says Hoyru Bezdin Lavoir. They were Hoyru, they could be over. For sure, not Bezdin's Lashon. Right? That's not what Bezdin said. That's the Tana describing what Bezdin Al Pia Emes did, because at the end they found that it was Naveira. But it's not, you cannot bring a raya easily from our Mishnah to Rav Dimim and Hardo's halacha that you need Matar Natam Lasos, because that's for sure not their language. Lava is just, in hindsight, this is what they did in the past. Because that's what we say lava. They were over on the mitzvah of a Torah, but that's not what they said in real time, obviously. So Mamela, it's not so simple to bring a raya from our Mishnah. That's what we leave it for last. What does that mean?
That means that
to bring more.
The Gemara goes out of its way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Ik amri Amr Shmuel ein bezn chayoven at sheyom lo matanatem lasis. Rav Dimon Adom afilo mataran atem. So now we have the other way around. Rav Dimon Adom says you don't need lasis, right? Even mataran atem nigmar oiro. That's already enough. Amar Abaye. So now the three rise that we brought to Rav Dimi are not going to be questions. Amar Abaye v'loitnan hachi chazal le'ira v'shana limit kedech limit poter hoyder lasses chayiv. So you see that you have to mamish be hoyder lasses in order to be chayiv. Before that, it's not nigmar hoyder. Amar Ababi v'loitnan hachi. Again, Mishnah Yivamas hoyder bezli nasa v'achal v'kil klechavs b'kar b'shlatira la'elay nase. So what do you see from there? That before they say lasos, it's not nigmar hoyder, right? It's only she's chayav b'karbon if they only said lihinase. So it's not like Rav Dimi in the second lashon who says mutar natam is enough. Amar Ravina, and Ravina asks him, "Our Mishnah v'letnan hachi." It says hoyder bezin lavoid. Alachim coming to mutar sulay midi. So you see that Rav Dimi's pshat in the Ikad Amri that you don't need lasses is not true. Okay. So now we go to the second line in the Mishnah. It's beautiful. The Gemara is going to take apart each line of the Mishnah. Now Bezdin, again, case in point was Bezdin Paskind, first Rashi, Shahiru Shechelev Eidam Mutter. They said Mamish Mefurish Pasuk, they Paskin Keneged the Halacha or Mitzvah in the Torah. However, they came to that conclusion, to that mistake, is beyond the scope of our conversation. I don't even know myself, but that's how they came to it. And the Mishnah said, the Yochid followed blindly, like Chazal say, like Sesuru, Yom Smile, right? Oh, so the Mishnah says, he's potter. If he mamish followed Bezdin, he's potter. Where's his potter? V'nisna asked the Gemara, it's redundant. V'nisna v'asa al piyam. Shoygig lamali. Why does it say twice? V'asa shoygig al piyam. Obviously it's a shoygig. Yeah, also al piyam. He followed whatever they said. We know that they were hoyru lavay. Why is the word shoygig relevant? Why are we emphasizing shoygig? Obviously he's a shoygig. He's following Bezdin blindly. Amar Rava shoygig lasuye. Oh, we have a big chiddush in the word shoygig over here. You know what the chiddush is? Lasuye hoyru bezdin shechelev mutter v'neschalef loy chelev b'shuman v'achloi. Interesting case, which means like this: Sanhedrin paskin chelev is mutter. Now I went to Ralph's. I go to the section over there, whatever section has chelev, non-kosher section. I want to pull out a kosher piece of meat. By mistake, I take out the chelev. So I would have made the mistake, even had Bezdin not paskin chelev as mutter, because I was going for the shuman. So I would have made the mistake on my own. Says the Mishnah, still, if it's al PM, you are shoygig because nischalaf lechelev b'shuman. V'achloin, then you ate it. Potter, you're also potter. You're mamish potter in such a case. Why? Because in truth, Bezdin said it's mutter. Al piyam mamish. In other words, it doesn't matter if I mistakenly grabbed the chelev instead of the shuman when I intended to grab the shuman. It doesn't matter if I reach for the chelev directly and I intended for the chelev to begin with. Doesn't matter either one of those cases. I'm potter. Big chiddush. Yeah.
What would the halacha?
Even if you didn't know about it.
If Bezdin did not make that psak at all.
Right.
And he did it totally with shogeg.
Yeah, he has to bring chatas.
Yes, and
He has to bring chatas. Here he's potter because Bezdin lamaisa paskin chelev is
Even
mutter.
if you didn't know about it.
You're asking. Suppose he didn't know about it.
you know about Bezdin. So
He didn't. Yeah, he wants to know if Bezdin didn't. If he didn't know about it.
It's even more better. It's more lenient.
No. If he didn't know about it, Pasha's not. Yeah, he knew about it, but he was going for the shuman.
Right. Now then he doesn't know, we do all of it. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's Pasha's the case. Yeah.
If he did not
The
know.
only reason why he's potter is because aliba de emes Bezdin paskin that chelev is okay. Right? Let's say Bezdin never would have paskin chelev is okay. Right? Let's say the guy, you wake up one morning, you go to the Ralph's and you want to take shuman, you end up taking chelev. You have to bring chatas. Maybe a shoygig. But because there was a psak halacha b'Sanhedrin Gadol that chelev is mutter, so he can hang his hat on the idea that Bezdin says it's okay.
My question is that. Let's say the big thing, they say it's okay to eat chelev.
Yes.
He didn't know the psak.
Right.
He went and he ate chelev.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in our Gemara, this case, but what would you say? What would be the halacha in such a case? He has no idea. He just goes and eats chelev. Why is he eating chelev?
Just to eat chelev.
That's amazing. It's intentionally knowingly being... אבל הוא לא יודע.
עכשיו עוד שאלה אחת.
מה אתה אומר? I'm just guessing. What would you say that the halacha is there? if Bezdin was matir and you were willing to do it as an isser, huh?
It's like you know.
It's like an Amor.
It's like a person. You know, they give him a meat to eat.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, he ordered chazir.
Yeah.
And they bought him cow and told chazir and he ate it.
Yes.
And he thought that he ate chazir, but he didn't eat chazir. He ate cow and it's kasher.
Right.
אז עובר עבירה?
לא, מגלגלים זכות על איזה...
אז אותו דבר, לא?
No, but it's not based on the machshava, it's based on the ma'isa.
This is interesting. You're tying a אותו דבר.
אותו דבר, לא? עכשיו עוד דבר אחד. בוא נגיד, יש לי עוד שאלה.
Yeah.
הוא לא ידע. הוא לא ידע שבית דין פסק.
Okay.
ובטעות הוא אכל את החלב. הוא לא ידע שהם פסקו ככה.
He made a mistake.
He made
Right.
a mistake.
So that's a shayk that brings a chatas.
Why? אבל בית דין...
Right.
בית דין already פסק.
Right. Yeah. That's yeah. I haven't seen it in the daf today, so it could be it's going to come up later. But as far as the daf that I prepared today, lo ro'iti. Okay, could be. So we're going to learn about it. Metzhem behemshach masechta.
He doesn't know that lacha, right? He doesn't know that lacha. He has to ask the Shabbos.
Right.
Ignorance.
What if he thought ignorance is no excuse? You're saying.
Exactly. So,
No, why?
What do you mean? What if somebody didn't know that it's usher to turn on a light in Shabbos? He knows it's Shabbos, but he doesn't know it's usher. So bring a chatas for that or not?
He's
Concern?
so he's a teenage nishba.
No, I think in
in
Klal Gadol in Masechta Shabbos, I think Perek Klal Gadol is a whole sugya there. How do we define a shogeg? And there are two ways. One is if a person forgets it's Shabbos, for example. He knows it's also, but he thought it's Tuesday. He woke up in the morning, he forgot it's Shabbos. I don't know if it ever happened to you. You wake up in the morning, you think it's a regular day, and you go about your day, and somebody remind you have to turn on the light. It's Shabbos. Yeah, it's one shogeg.
It happened to my friend.
Yeah.
He called him, was in Dubai. He says, now she was with time. He says, no, I asked ChatGPT. He says, Wednesday.
It's another right not to trust ChatGPT. So he thought it was the wrong day.
Yeah.
It's one way. Gemara and Klal Gadol on Shabbos. Another way is you know it's Shabbos. Don't you forgot that this is Aser. Taking a hair out of a salad is Aser. He didn't know. It's Bayr, Medaraisa. So that's another type of shogeg. There are two different types of shogegim, right? So you're asking, let's say Bezdin was really matir, and still you were a shogeg, but you didn't know Bezdin was matir. That's what you're saying. You didn't know Bezdin was matir. Here I think we're talking about we knew Bezdin was matir. You knew Bezdin was matir, but still he reached for the shuman, and he got the chaylev. So here, yesh svara, there's a svara to say that he anyways would have made this mistake without Bezdin, so maybe he does bring a chatos. Says Rava, no. Since Bezdin paskind that chaylev is mutter, so you can hang your hat on Bezdin, and you can be potter from a chatos. That's the first ikad amri. The ikad amri, Rabbi, we're up to the first wide line of Beis Amar Aleph and Horayos. Ikad amri omer Rava shogeg al piyam with the potter. No, it's only shogeg al piyam. It's only if the shogeg was purely because you relied on Bezdin. You thought chaylev is mutter because Bezdin passed. You knew it's chaylev. You never would have touched it. But now that Bezdin put out a psak halacha, all the WhatsApp chats, it's mutter. I said, mamish, okay. Mitzvah l'shmoy divrei chachumim, yeah? You go and you buy chaylev for the first time, you shachayonu, you kind of the mitzvah l'shmoy divrei chachumim. Yeah, that's potter. But if after Bezdin was matir chaylev, you were trying to reach for the shuman and you ate the chaylev instead, then he's chayiv. So the Gemara says we have two lashonos in what Rava actually said. Did he say the case of Hoyru Bezdin, that chaylev is mutter? Is that a case of Tola Badas Bezdin, or you're still Chayiv Achatas? That's two Lashonis in Rava. Says the Gemara, whatever was Pasha to Rava, in whichever Ikad Amri you go in, whatever was Pasha to Rava was a Shaila to Rami Barchama. I always like to say, what's the relationship between Rava and Rami Barchama? Anybody know?
You told they were sitting over there.
They're married to the same woman. Yeah, married to the same wife.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Rav Chizda's daughter. Yeah, Rami Barchama was married first, and Rava married her afterwards. Yeah, Ano Basra. Yeah. So Rav Barchama, the boy Rami Barchama asked as a shaila. Hoyru bezin shechela mut v'schat b'shuman v'ach leimau. Omar Rava, Toshel, I'll bring you a raya. Holach yochid v'osa shogeg al piyam. It says in the Mishnah both. Shogeg al piyam lomeli. Why do I need both? Lav lasuya hoyru bezin shechela mutter v'neschat v'chel b'shuman v'ach le potter. Oh. So he says, I have a raya that it's part of my Mishnah because the Mishnah says double, shogeg al piyam, meaning both cases. So Rambam Barchama says, no, dilma shogeg al piyam with the potter. Maybe the Mishnah is emphasizing shoygig al pihem, only if it's al pihem the potter. How do you know to be in the Mishnah this way? Maybe in the Mishnah the other way. So Rabbi Yoel had a shaila, and Rava had a pshitas in how to be in the Mishnah. Ikad Amri, the other way around. Where Rava, Omer Rava, Tosh Malach Yachad V'Shaygal Piyam, I love Shaygal Piyam with the potter, Rava L'Schat Chem Shemach L'Chayev. Like the second Ikad Amri, right? That it's Chayev in such a case. So Rabbi Yoel asked him, how do you know it's Chayev? How do you know in the Mishnah this way? Dilma oishogig oyal PM. How do you know the Mishnah is emphasizing, doubling down that it has to be a shogig dafka al PM and not by neschalafloi chaylev b'shuman? Maybe the Mishnah is saying two cases oishogig oyal PM and they're both potter. So in other words, you have two lashonis. However you go to Rava's pshitale l'Rama Berchama, he had a shaila. Now the Gemara says the truth is beplukta. This is really a machloikas. This shaila, whether Bezdin was hoira, chaylev is mutter, and then the guy made an honest mistake by trying to eat shuman, and it was the schalaf le bechaylev. The truth is, this is a shaila. It's already a shaila machlikas. Earlier, Amirah and Rav and Rabbi Yochanan. Hoiru Bezdin shechaylev mutter and the schalaf bechaylev shuman ve'achlei. Rav Amar Potter ve'Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rav and Rabbi Yochanan were from the first Amirah, right? Rava and Rambam Bechama were from the last Amirah. So the Gemara says this really is a machlikas from the first Amirah. Yeah, Rav says Potter, Rabbi Yochanan says Chayiv. Whereas in the parsha, when it says that a guy does a shoygig ischai v'chatos, it says me'am ha'oretz. Am ha'oretz in the Torah doesn't mean like it says in the Mishnah. It's am ha'uretz. Shtais am ha'uretz. Amaratzis. Amaratzis means somebody like Mamish doesn't know. Am ha'oretz in the Torah, me'am ha'oretz ba'asoisa means, you're from Amchu. Bist from Amchu. You are one of us. You are somebody who is a erlich yid. Okay, ma'am uretz is actually a compliment in this context. So Gemara says prat lamumar. Prat, the Torah is saying you have to be me'amchu. You have to be someone who's a Yerushalayim, who does an honest oisa masa amcha. Very good. Yeah, doctor's referencing droshes that we see in the Gemara about people who are Yerushalayim. They are sheimet Torah mitzvahs. Prat lamumar. The parsha of chatos doesn't apply to a mumar. Why? Because a mummer, what's a mummer? A mummer would do the Aveda anyway. Pumpty got a... Things a mummer, okay, but he would do the Aveda. He's happy to do Avedas. It's just now that Bezdin was matir, now he's hanging his head on Bezdin. But even if Bezdin wouldn't be matir, he'd still do the Aveda. So he doesn't bring a chatas. Basically what it means is that sometimes a person is ready to do an Aveda. And then one day or one time he's a Shtaka Shoygig, he forgot. So can he bring a Chatas because this time he was a Shoygig? Says the Gemara, there's a drasha. No, not every Shoygig brings a Chatas. It's only a Shoygig that would be Shavni Yadiyasai. If you were to remind him in the middle of the Aveda, hey, it's Aser, he would right away stop. Then the halucha is that he brings a shoygig. Such a type of shoygig that had you known b'shas maisa that it's usher, you would stop right away. That kind of shoygig brings a chatas. That's called a shavmi yadiyasai. Zertzach Pesach Shalom Aleichem. We're up to 3 lines of the Vezim and Alf and Horayos. The Gemara says a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Because Rabbi Yochanan says this guy who wanted to eat shuman and he got chaylev instead, he brings a carbon chatas. But what do you mean? He's not a shav miyadiyasai. Why is he not a shav miyadiyasai? Because as soon as you tell him it's chaylev, would he stop? He wouldn't. Why not? Because Bezdin paskin it's mutter. So you don't have a shav miyadiyasai in the case of hoyru Bezdin shechaylev mutter. When it's chalef loy chaylev b'shuma, that's not a case of shav miyadiyasai. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say you're chayv v'chatas in such a case? That's the kasha of the Gemara. Because once Bezdin would find out about their own mistake, they would be chayzer, and then he would be chayzer. That's shav midiyasai krinabei. That's called shav midiyasai. That's also called shav midiyasai because ultimately he doesn't want to do the aveda. He's only doing because he thinks it's mutter. Either it's neschalafloy, and even when you tell him it's neschalafloy, he's continuing it only because he thinks Hayra Bezdin shechelev mutter. But as soon as Bezdin would catch on to their mistake, he would stop. That's also nichlal in the concept, in the klal of shav miyadiyasai. And therefore he's chayiv. Omar Rava, and Rava says, right? Rava is the one who says that he's potter in one ikad amri, and that's what Rav says. He says Moide Rav she'enoi mashlam l'roif tzibur, that even though this guy, this yachid, can rely on Bezdin, even though it's neschalef chaylev b'shuman, he can rely on Bezdin and be potter from a carbon chatas, right? Should know eina mashlam l'roif tzibur. You can't be mashlam him. You can't use him to tip the scale to roif tzibur. What does this mean? So Rashi explains. By the way, if you notice, Rashi's on both sides in Horayos, right? Taisvis is on the bottom. Yeah, Rashi on both sides. Like the Rashbam and Baba Basra, sometimes you have the Rashbam, the long Rashbams on both sides. Rashbam is Taisvis regularly, but yeah, in Baba Basra. But also, I was telling Reb Shol that if you notice, if the daf feels longer, we have to catch it, we have to put in a lot more. It's because it is, and we have to cram it in because the font is smaller. So whoever marketed Horayos, the Sfarim HaKadoshim say that Horayos is like a mess mitzvah. Nobody learns Horayos. You only learn that if you learn Daf Yomi. You never in a yeshiva. You ever heard of yeshiva? Well, learning with Sechtos. I spoke to a guy yesterday. He goes to Eli Stefanski's shir. He said to me, "Never heard of Horayos. How do you pronounce it?" No, people don't even know how to pronounce it, right? So the Sfarim say it's mamash a mess mitzvah. Any mitzvah that people neglect is compared to a mitzvah. So the Masechtas Horayos is a mess mitzvah. And so Lamaisa, you can consider yourself right now being oisik in a mess mitzvah. Any Daf Yomi guy is oisik in a mess mitzvah. But either way, the font is smaller. So it's actually, it's not 12 blot. This is 24 blot, easy. Yeah, it's a lot more words. But either way, and also a lot more concepts packed in a blot. So this concept, what does Ein Mashal Lorif Tzibur mean? It means that in order for Sanhedrin, for Bezdin to be mechuyev, what's known as a par helam davar shel tzibur, which means if they mislead most of Klal Yisrael, right? Bezdin gives a wrong psak halacha, and most of Klal Yisrael follow them. They have to bring a carbon called the par helam davar shel tzibur. That's their chatas. That's the par that the Sanhedrin bring. Depends who really brings it, but al kaponim there's this par helam davar shel tzibur. So the halacha is it's only if roif tzibur was misled. What if you have chatzi tzibur? Not sure how you're going to count, but you count the people, right? It's hetzi, right? You have the black and white. You have some people didn't. So then they don't bring a par on davar shel tzibur. Says Rava, moida Rav is moida. That what if you have chatzi that followed Bezdin Agadol, and what if you have chatzi that didn't? So at this point, they don't bring a par on davar shel tzibur. Then you have this one guy who was neschalef loy chaylev b'shuman, right? He mistakenly reached for he wanted to eat the shuman. He made a mistake in his own. He would have made the mistake anyway. And he ate the chaylev instead. But lucky him, Bezdin was mata chaylev. They made a mistake. Can you count him as part of the chatzi who followed Bezdin to tip the scale for Bezdin to bring a parallel davar shel tzibur? Zokt Rava moide Rav that this fellow Hagami doesn't bring a carbon chatas because he's called a toilet bebezdin because he could claim he relied on Bezdin's psak, but no, you can't follow this guy all the way. You can't take him all the way to the bank, right? Eina mashlam l'roif tzibur. My timer. There you have a separate drasha. Amakra bishgoga at yikulan bishgoga achas. You have to be the same type of shogig. Here, this guy was unique. This chalav lechaylev v'shuma, so you can't consider him as part of the crowd. Okay. We had in the Mishnah says that there are three types of holach hayochid v'osa al das Bezdin. One is if he does it with Bezdin, one if Bezdin does it first and he does it after, and one if he does it alone and Bezdin never did it. So Gemara says, what's going on? Kol hani, lama Mr. Kol hana. Why do you need all these cases? Bottom line, he followed Bezdin. Who cares if he did it with Bezdin, Bezdin did it before, or Bezdin didn't do it at all? What's the difference? The Gemara says, Bishlam Reisha. I understand the Reisha when you say he's potter because he followed Bezdin. So Loizu Avzu Katani. So each one is a bigger chiddush than the next, right? So the chiddush of Bezdin doing it together with him, right? That's lesser chiddush because when I say he saw Bezdin do it, Bezdin and him do it together. So it's mamish toilet b'das Bezdin. But if let's say Bezdin did it first and he did it afterwards, not at the same time, is that also toilet b'das Bezdin? And what if Bezdin didn't do it at all? That's the least toilet b'das Bezdin. So that's the biggest chiddush of all that you could be called the toilet b'das Bezdin based on the psak if you didn't even see them do it. So Mela Loizu Avzu is a type of sequence in Mishnayos where the Mishnah gives you the least chiddush first, and then the bigger, and then the massive chiddush after. Ela Seifa the Lechayuva, but in the Seifa when we talk about Tola B'das Atzmoi, and it gives you the same sequence, that doesn't make sense. Tola B'das Atzmoi, Avada Tola B'das Atzmoi, the biggest chiddush that it's Tola B'das Atzmoi, if Bezdin did it with him. That's called Tola B'das Atzmoi. He saw Bezdin do it with him. So you have to reverse the order. Ipchem B'boyle. So the Gemara says, Nisht, there's another kind of sequence which is called Zuva Ein Tzarech Lemer Zuktani. In the Seifa, the sequence is called where we give you the biggest chiddush first, the Ein Tzarech Lemer Zu, the lesser chiddush after, the least chiddush last. Okay, Zuk de Gemura v'yoda echad men shetoy talmud v'roi lo ra. Right, that's already the third line in our Mishnah, where Mishnah says that if somebody knows better, this is an unbelievable Gemara. Suppose somebody knows better. They hear the psak that Bezdin says chaylev is mutter to eat. It's mutter to eat blood. And this guy, he came to Daf Yomi, yeah, and he's mamish. He's Yoda echad ben sheto. He knows the Rav is making a mistake over here, right? Oy Talmud v'roi lo ra, or he's an intern on the Sanhedrin Agadol, right? They had Talmidim who sat in to do shimush, so they're mamish close to Hayra. Right? It's mamish roi lo ra. If one of the Sanhedrin dies, he takes him over. He's mamish roi lo ra. So he can paskin shilas basically, and he knows that they're wrong, and yet he decided to follow Sanhedrin Agadol. The halach in the Mishnah is that's called Tola B'das Atzmoi. It's not Tola B'das Bezni. It's Chai V'chatos. So the Gemara says we give you two examples. One is Yoda Echad Meshato, and the other is Talmud Roi Lo Ra. The Gemara says Tartu Lomli. Why do I need both? I need both to tell you a chiddush. So that's why I need the second case that even gomer v'saver. So what does that mean? You have two types of talmidei chachamim.
You know what is to be able to be tole בבית דין, אתה צריך להיות, אם אתה תלמיד חכם, ואתה תמיד, אז זה לא מספיק, כי בית דין זה הטאפ של התלמיד חכמים. No matter what, אפילו תחשוב שאתה יודע, זה לא מספיק.
Yeah, it's not enough. It's not enough for what? For what?
לא מספיק בכדי לחייב אותך.
The Mishnah says, if you knew better, you're chayav v'chatas. You can't claim ignorance because Bezdin made a mistake. When you knew Bezdin made a mistake, you can't claim. Right. You can't claim, I didn't know they knew better. Yeah, that's not claiming ignorance. You're right. Stand corrected. Yeah. No, but here the Gemara seems to say that, we'll talk about it in a moment, but the Gemara seems to say that you should have had more confidence in yourself and not follow Bezdin.
But it's not an easy decision because it says low source.
Oh, so we'll talk about that. Okay, fine. כן. שחלב מותר. ואתה למדת, ואתה אוכל חלב עכשיו. כן. חייב חטוס, הפטור שאתה טועה בדס רב עובדיה.
אתה פטור כי אני אפס לעומת הרב עובדיה.
זה לא כדברי המשנה.
לא נכון.
רגע, רק אם אתה יודע שטוב, אתה יודע שרב עובדיה טעה?
אני לא יודע שהוא טעה.
That's different. Mishnah saying, יודע אחד מן שטוב.
אני אומר ככה, אני הבנתי את הסוגיה אחרת. ככה אני אומר, אבל הרב עובדיה פסק, הרב עובדיה, ראש הסנהדרין.
Okay, so that I'm not sure if it's יודע אחד מן שטוב. Let's say, Bezdin Paskin, that chaylev is mutter, and you learned in the Torah, and you see it's mamish black and white, it's also. You know. What should you do? Your only suffix we'll see, and the Gemara is going to explain in a moment if we get there. The only suffix is mitzvah l'shmai divrei chachamim b'dernisht. I know they're making a mistake, but it's still a mitzvah l'shmai divrei chachamim. I have to listen to my Rebbe. And I know my Rebbe's making a mistake. Maybe I still have to listen to him. That's the only debate over here, perhaps, you have. The Gemara is going to talk about by Shimon ben Azai, Shimon ben Zayma. Right? They knew that Sanhedrin for sure is making a mistake. They were even greater than Rav Ovadia. Right? They were greater than the Sanhedrin. And still, they would be chayav v'chatas because they... Okay, let's see. So the Gemara, V'yoda echad neshatoi talmud v'roi lo ira. So the Gemara says, two types of people the Mishnah mentions who know better. One is Yoda and one is Talmud v'roi lo ira. The Gemara says, Tarti Lomli, why do I need both of them? Omar Rav Itzrach. I would have thought that the person who's chayav v'chatas is only if a person learned halachas and he understands them well. Aval gomer, but if you learn just the plain halacha, black and white, v'loy savi doesn't really understand it. Maybe he's not chai v'chatas, because then you could say he's not so learned and he just followed bezdin. So there we say even that is chai v'chatas. Amle abaya lo yira gomer v'savar mashma. What do you mean? Lo yira, it says gomer v'savar. How can you tell me that lo yira is even gomer v'loy savar? The word lo yira can't mean gomer v'loy savar. It can't be the chiddush. If it just would have said the first case, I would have thought gomer v'saver. Aval gomer v'loy saver loy tana roy loy ra. The Mishnah Yisera feel gomer v'loy saver saver loy gomer. That was the Mishnah Yisera. It's an extra word. It's not the interpretation of roy loy ra. It's the extra word that teaches that even if you're gomer or loy saver saver loy gomer, you understand, but you didn't actually learn it. You learned it, but you didn't understand it. That's also considered tola b'das atzmoy, and you should have not followed bezdin. Yes.
סביר זה אחד שיודע להבין דבר מתוך דבר.
נכון.
גמיר זה אחד שלומד.
כן. הוא יודע את ה-black and white, השולחן ערוך.
אז יש, there's a big difference between גמיר וסביר, נכון?
Yeah.
זה מה שהמשנה, זה מה שהמשנה רוצה להגיד, נכון?
כן.
שזה לא מספיק להיות גמיר.
נו.
צריך להיות סביר בכדי שאתה תתחייב חטא.
נכון.
גמיר זה לא מספיק.
נכון.
גמיר אתה תהיה פטור, נכון?
Yes.
נכון, זה מה שהגמרא רוצה להגיד.
No, the Gemara is going to say even gomer.
Even
gomer v'lei saver or saver v'lei gomer will be chai v'chatas.
Yes. אז למה אתה אומר לי
The chai v'chatas, he can't claim I was just following bezdin blindly. If he was gomer, if you knew better, then you should have trusted your own gut, which is a big issue, because you're asking, what do you mean? You have to follow the rabbunim blindly. Huh? Yeah, that's the big kasha. Yeah.
Meaning like this. Or is Amaretz Gamu.
Yeah.
Or he ate it, but he didn't know that the basin make Horayos.
That's right. Gomer v'loy saver saver v'loy gomer. Exactly. Yeah. You have either or.
So the judge is a case of like saver v'loy gomer, meaning everything.
Talmud v'roy loy ra. So Talmud is gomer v'loy saver. Taduroy loy ra. Even if he's gomer v'loy saver v'loy gomer, even saver v'loy gomer is also chai v'chatas. That's Talmud and roy loy ra. Yes.
Two types of talmidim, basically.
Yeah.
Not that the judge is saver v'loy gomer.
Not that the judge. No. It's two types of people around bezdin. Some are gomer.
If you just brought the talmud, we know for sure the judge. Why didn't you both?
No.
The Yitzchak usually is both ways.
So the Mishnah Yisera, I know one or the other. The Mishnah Yisera. I only know it from Mishnah Yisera by repeating it, and I don't need to repeat it. Now I know why we're repeating it. There it says gomer sav lagomer. Yeah.
Gamir v'lo sabir lo yechav chasas. זה מה שאמרת.
לא יהיה חייב חטס?
לא יהיה חייב חסס.
איפה אתה?
אני בגמרא.
איזה גמרא?
רב עליה, נכון? אנא אחי כאמינא, נכון?
Where?
אמר לה אביי, אמר לה, רב עליה אביי, נכון? אנא אחי כאמינא.
Yeah, he's חייב וחטס.
הווה אמינא הנמילי, נכון?
הווה אמינא הנמילי.
זה הכוונה.
לא יראה, תונה, therefore, לא יראה.
לאיזה תלמיד שהוא גמיר ולא סביר, אבל תלמיד שהוא גמיר ולא סביר, לא יהיה חייב חטס.
Therefore, תונה, לא, finish. תונה, therefore, that's why, לכן נקט המשנה גם את המקרא השני.
וראוי להוראה, זה משהו אחר לגמרי.
ממשנה יסיירה, אפילו גמיר ולא סביר, סביר ולא גמר, חייב חטס.
וראוי להוראה זה אחד אחר לגמרי, לא?
It's a Mishnah Yisera that teaches me it doesn't matter. Gomer v'lo saver, saver v'lo gomer, you always chai v'chatas. If you had a hunch that Bezdin is wrong, you shouldn't have followed Bezdin. Yeah? That's a big shiloh. Yeah, that's the kasha over there. Yeah, not so pashut, right. Everybody is, queasy when we say this Gemara, and everybody's struggling with it because we know, there's a free on the pasuk of a siru meisa she'egidu l'cha. Yeah, that's the famous.
The only person, if somebody's a real Talmud Chacham, that's one thing. But people like me, I'm just going to do what
No,
the
you'd be potter.
Thank you.
Okay, weiter. Zog the Gemara. Roi loy ra kegoin man. Gemara wants a real life example. So the Gemara could have said kegoin Reb Rechavia, but we didn't say it. Omar Rava kegoin Shimon didn't say Yoel Gold either. Didn't say any of us. Kegoin Shimon ben Azai. Listen to this. Shimon ben Azai v'Shimon Shimon ben Zoyma. Unbelievable. You hear who's Roi loy ra. Roi loy ra is ben Azai and ben Zoyma. Yeah, unbelievable. Gemara says,
This is the beginning with the first part of the beginning.
Amalei Abaye, where
Where?
2 dots and Beis Amud Beis. 2 dots in the middle. So Amalei Abaye said, huh?
In Pikiogos, they call Ben Azza and Ben Zoma.
Yes.
And,
Here they're called Shimon.
Yeah, the father
rabbi
not
there
mentioned.
says
Shimon.
because they didn't reach to the level of
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Only the father mentioned, not the name.
Well, they didn't get smich, right? They didn't reach Roy La Roy, but not because they weren't worthy. You'll see in a moment,
Because
right?
of their longevity or lack of longevity.
The reason was because
And the Meforshim bring it over there. but
they didn't reach Zikna. They didn't reach Laklal Zikna. They were very, very young. But anyway,
How old were they?
I don't know their age.
60?
they were less than
What is
40.
Zikna?
I think they were 40.
Either way, the Gemara says that Lo Hoyu Biyameim Kamoisam Batoira. They were the giants. They were the Rav Chaim Kanievsky's, Maran Avadia, Rav
Yeah.
Moshe Feinstein. You're
Right.
talking about the greatest of the great. The Gemara says, who's an example of Roy Loi Ra? And he didn't follow Sanhedrin Agadol, and therefore he's Chai V'chatas, or he followed, and he followed Sanhedrin Agadol, and he knew better. That's why he's Chai V'chatas.
Because he knew better.
Because he knew better. Who
If
is
he
that person? Who is that example? Shimon ben Shimon
Isn't
Zayma.
that the classic thing of Beisol and Bishamai?
Yeah.
They pass like Beisol, even Bishamai technically is right. So Bishamai technically, did the right thing.
Bas Shammai technically did the right thing in what? When he did what?
No, pass like Beisol, Mashiach Chaj, pass like Bishamai is really right.
Right.
So what you're saying, it's not about how many, we go Basarai, it's about who's right.
Well,
They
yeah,
knew
okay.
Shimon ben Shimon Zayma, even though they weren't Roy Lai Ra yet. Okay, the Gemara says, "Baya ki hay gavna mezid." What do you mean? If Shimon ben Azai and Shimon ben Zayma knew that Sanhedrin were wrong, and they followed Sanhedrin anyway, you're calling that a shoygig?
No.
A chatas? That's amazing.
That's
They're-
godless. That's godless.
That's not the Gemara.
Okay.
Okay.
Exactly.
We're learning the Gemara. It's the Chamezid. What do you mean? They knew better. What are they doing? What are they doing following business? Where it says, Ul Tameich. So Rava answers Abaye. What do you mean? So before Shabraisa, Haratanya Basoisa Achas. Min mitzvah Hashem Shlesasenu Yochad Oizen Piatz Mechayev. Boiros Bezin Potter Ketzad. Hoyru Bezin Shechel Mutav Nelech Shtoy Tam Jesh Lener Verel Kajim Ben Azai Yochel Ye Potter Tamalon Basoisa Achas. Yochad Oizen Piatz Mechayev. Boiros Bezin Potter. So what do you see from here? You see from here, the Brisa clearly gives an example of Shimon ben Azai. Shimon ben Azai is the one who's chayiv a chatas, right? He's chayiv a chatas because he shouldn't have followed Bezdin. He's not amazed. Not amazed. He's chayiv a chatas. How's he chayiv a chatas? But he clearly knows it's wrong.
And
so
what
how could
would-
you not consider him amazed?
How
He's
do
the Gadol Adar. He knows Kol HaTorah Kulo, mamish. So how can you not consider him amazed? Just because Sanhedrin made a mistake, he shouldn't have followed them. He follows them. He's a shoygig. He's amazed. He knows it's wrong. So how do you explain that? Ella hechem eshkachas lakegoin, the yoda the osur, the ketoy b'mit. You're right. They knew for sure it's osur. They knew for sure that
Bezdin or-
Shimon ben Azai. They
Yeah.
knew for sure it's osur.
Yeah.
If he's following Bezdin, why isn't he amazed? He's going against what he knows to be true. So why is he shoygig? Why is he chayiv v'chatas? You know he made a mistake. The mistake was in the sugya of mitzvah l'shmoy divrei chachamim. Am I still mechuyev to follow Sanhedrin? Because there's another mitzvah that even if they're wrong, we have to follow them. Yeah, you have to follow them blindly.
Yes.
That was their mistake. So even though the halacha that chaylev is aser, they knew with clarity. So Mamela, they should be considered amazed if they eat that chaylev based on the psak and Sanhedrin Agadol. But they had another reason
Right.
to eat it, which is mitzvah shmei divrei chachamim, and that was their mistake. They thought that mitzvah shmei divrei chachamim overrides a case in point when the chachamim make a mistake, and the answer is it doesn't. Chachamim make a mistake, it doesn't override it. So
What's
that's
the
the
mit-
way. The toy, the din having the toy, but mitzvah shmei divrei chachamim.
What's a
Also,
Zachin
Shem Nashim
Mamre?
Zayma.
What's a Zachin Mamre? A Zachin Mamre.
Totally
Spoke with
different.
it yesterday.
That's totally different.
That's a different case. Zaken Mamre is what's a Zaken Mamre? Zaken Mamre is
He
Talmud
argues-
Chacham.
Goes against the
he
Sanhedrin.
paskins.
yeah. The Zaken Mamre is wrong. Sanhedrin are right. Here we're talking Sanhedrin was wrong.
We spoke about it yesterday.
Okay, so the Gemara Zaklal Toila ba'atzmei chayev. Mishnah concludes with Zaklal. Anytime the Mishnah gives us a halacha, then it concludes and reiterates Zaklal. This is the halacha. It's always coming to be marba something. Zaklal toile ba'atzmei chayiv lasuye me. What's coming to be marba? Says the Gemara, lasuye meva'et b'hoira'ah. Ooh, if it's a guy who always rejects the psak halachas of Bezdin, and all of a sudden Bezdin comes up with a psak halacha, chaylev is mutir. Says mamish. Now I'm gonna follow Bezdin. Now I'm a tzaddik. Says the Gemara, that's toile ba'atzmei. You don't get a pass. You don't get a pass. Ich bin gewohnt about tshuva. Bezdin am Matre gewinnt Zaynis. No. Hey, listen, that's mechais. Bezdin made a mistake. You never follow Bezdin. We know who you are. We know your reputation. You don't get a pass when you're a usual mavait by Rav. You usually reject psakim of Bezdin, and this time you followed Bezdin. That's considered toile ba'atzmai.
Always against Bezdin.
Then he would be against Bezdin now too.
Yeah, then he'd be against Bezdin now too. I mean, he's talking about everywhere else. Everywhere else, he's talking about, but over here, he decided to do tshuva. Okay.
So we don't believe
Yeah.
him. We don't
No,
believe
we don't believe him. He's a toile ba'atzmai. You got to do tshuva. You chayiv chatas. And the other part is the zaklal. The second part of the last part of the Mishnah, which is zaklal toile bebezdin potters lasuya mai lasuya hoiru bezdin. This is interesting. Bezdin paskind that it's mutter to eat chaylev. The yodu shato. And then they found out they made a mistake. They reconvened the next day. He's like, oy vey, oy vavoy. Kol koidas everywhere. You know those ramkolim that they send out in Yerushalayim?
Right.
Yeah? V'chazru ben. And this guy was in his mamad. He had earphones. He had headphones. And he was still in the middle of working, listening to music. And he didn't hear the kol koidas. He didn't see any. He didn't know. And he goes into his fridge afterwards and he takes out a piece of chaylev. He's like, Bezdin was mater, geschmack. But Bezdin was already chayzer. He just didn't find that. He didn't get the memo. Says the Gemara, that's included in Zeh Klal, Toile Badas Bezdin. You'd be potter. Why? Because still, when you're doing it, you're doing it because Bezdin was matter. You just never got the memo that they were chayzer.
Yeah.
So a mela that would be included in Toile Badas Bezdin. Frag the Gemara, this halacha is before in the Mishnah later, right? Why do I need Zeh Klal to imply the halacha? I already know from the future Mishnah. Says the Gemara, no, Tony Vadu Farish. First, they tell you Zeh Klal, and sometimes Mishnah does that. They'll give you a headline, and then they'll go into the details in the next Mishnah. But I'll call upon him. This is our Mishnah. By the way, we just finished with two more lines. Omer Rav Yehuda Shmuel, Zu Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. You should know whatever we just learned up until this point is a das yochid. Is Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who holds that if a yochid follows Bezdin's psak, a mistaken psak by Bezdin, that he's potter from bringing a carbon chatos because he was just following Bezdin. That's a das yochid. That's Rabbi Yehuda. And that's how we pass in the Rambam Shulchan Aruch.
Paskin that he is
Yochid she'oso b'roas Bezdin chayev. You should know that a yochid, not talking about roif tzibur, talking about a yochid or a miyat tzibur. A yochid of a tzibur that follow Bezdin's mistaken psak halacha needs to bring a chatas v'chein halacha.
only if they know it's wrong, or even if they don't know it's wrong.
Who?
The yochid.
No, the yochid doesn't know that they're wrong. The yochid follows blindly Bezdin's
Right, so
psak.
there, he still
Has to bring a chatas according to the Chachamim.
Wow.
Our Mishnah is only das Rabbi Yehuda. We don't paskin this way, so we'll end off that this is das Chachamim. Tomorrow the Gemara is going to bring the brises from how we know this is Rabbi Yehuda's shita and the Chachamim argue. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Good.